Welcome to For the Love of It, Tafe New South Wales sessions. I'm your host, Tafe Pappas, and on this special edition, all our guests share a common pathway that Tafe New South Wales have supported their dreams. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gadigal people of Eora Nation. We pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to For the Love of It, Tafe New South Wales sessions. I'm Steph Pappas, your host, and today's guest is a very creative and colourful artist, musician, music producer, podcast host, and someone who is a curious learner of life. Studied at Tafe New South Wales music production, has a Bachelor of Arts and with a distinction, and a Bachelor of Art Therapy with a distinction. Arriving on the scene with a buzz, unearthed by Triple J, featured on Rage's Indie of the Week for the video Lost in the Moment, billed at Pete's Ridge Festival, which also featured Angus and Julia Stone, and his debut single Lost in the Moment was on Triple J's hit list On Rotation. Daniel has ventured on so many roads and is true visionary and a creative, and his recent adventure even includes mentoring music production at Ngaanyatjarra. He's recently collaborated with his good mate Jordan Wilson, aka Georgia Fair. Together they have a podcast called Snowy Gum Podcast. Daniel continues to find his balance between creativity and the pressures of the music industry. And Dan likes to say, I don't know much at all.
Do I?
I'm still learning. I think you do.
Yeah, sounds
Please welcome to For the Love of It, Tafe New South Wales sessions, Daniel Forsyth.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan, for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
We'll call you Dan during the chat.
Sure.
Let's start off. We're here at Tafe in Ultimo. You studied music production at Tafe. Was that one of the first pathways you took into study?
Yeah, it was.
And
yeah.
it was over in North Sydney?
In North Sydney, yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit and then we'll go into the journey from there. Was there a mentor? Was there something that you remember that's really stuck with you from that experience?
Well, I actually just I
Yes.
bumped into Herm, who was one of my teachers. And I remember him fiddling with this compressor once and trying to teach, and he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just do it, and he couldn't really explain it. But his approach, and then I actually sang, we were recording and I sang, I'm just remembering this now.
Yeah.
And he was really encouraging of my singing more than my production. So it was a really encouraging environment. Peter Gage was my teacher too, and he also...
He's on leave at the moment, but he's still with Tafe New South Wales.
Well, yeah, they were great. They were really encouraging. They were sort of badasses as well. Like, they really believed in music and music production, and that definitely came across to me.
Definitely came. And so you've had an incredible musical journey since then. That was back in 2008, 2009, I think you were studying music production.
Yeah.
But you were also into rugby. And there was part of you that was like dreaming to be a rugby player, I believe.
I think I'd lost my hopes by that stage. That was that as I learnt guitar, my desire to be a rugby league star faded.
Started to drop the balance.
Yeah, yeah.
And music was something that was always around when you were young. You picked up a guitar and you played a lot with family and friends. Do you want to go back to your earlier memories of falling in love with music?
No, I wasn't so young, no.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there was music in the house. Dad would play Bob Dylan and Neil, like those sort of songwriters. But I just would imagine that I could play. You know, I would pick up a guitar and think that I could play.
guitar.
It wasn't till... or like bad open strumming guitar. But I had it wasn't until like 15 or 16 that I started playing guitar, and then a couple of years started writing songs, and it was a real shock. People around me were like, where the hell does this come from? And it was a shock for me too. So it emerged later. It wasn't a childhood thing for me.
Actually, I'm trying to remember now. There was one of the songs you wrote, there was an incident with Julia Stone Was that in the earlier
20s.
stage?
That was
Yeah.
20s. That was a ruse. I went to an Angus and Julia Stone concert,
Okay.
and it floored me, and it was like
Amazing band.
Yeah. But I was also had a crush on a girl, so I wrote a song about her, but disguised it writing it about Julia Stone, so no one would know that I don't know why I had to keep it a secret, but that's just what I did. So yeah.
And that song was
Lost
in the moment. And back then, your father and your mum supporting you with music. What was it with your father in that moment when you were trying to decide what to do with that song? He was quite supportive of that process for you.
Well, yeah, I was just mucking around on my computer recording. We shared an office space, and he just once said, "What are you doing in that? What are you doing there?" And I said, "Oh, I'm recording these songs." And he said, "Are we going to hear any?" And I said, "Sure." So he was one of the first person I showed my songs to. And then that song that you're talking about, I put it on and I had to leave the room because I was too embarrassed. And then I came back in and he was like, "Oh, that's a great song, you should." So that's that.
And that song, let's share with everyone, went on a journey of its own.
It really did.
It really did.
Yeah.
And still to this day, I mean, it's still,
Yeah,
I
it's
think...
still got legs somehow.
It still has legs.
I want to do it again. I don't know how.
And that's why we're here talking. And I think that's what I want people to understand from these chats, is that these moments do happen along the pathway, and it's learning how to keep that inspiration, isn't it? And that's what I want to talk about with you, because so this song, it ended up, you were straight out, I think you were at 23, you went on tour with Passenger. Does everyone know Passenger? What's the song?
You only like the light and you shine it low.
Only know you love her when you let her go. Yeah, that's it. Everyone know it? So you went on tour with Passenger and Old Man River, which is another, actually, Old Man River also got a hit that just went on the Sunrise, the morning show. His song, I know his song, but anyway, it will come to me. Oh, yeah. Sunshine by Old Man River.
Right. Yeah.
So you're on tour with them. Tell us about that experience. Age 23, first time you're really on a big tour.
It was great. Passenger was really lovely. It worked out well because Old Man River was kind of fading and Passenger was launching. So I was on first. Most people were coming to see Passenger. So I got these really big, full, attentive crowds. It did two things. I really enjoyed it. I also felt this insatiable beast in me that would never be. I had this one gig that I remember in Brisbane. There was about 300 or 400 people, and they really soaked it up, and I really enjoyed it. And I could just feel this like, I want more. But it wasn't a nice feeling. It was like, this is not going to, whatever I think this success, creative success, is going to bring me, is not going to fulfill whatever that hungry beast is. So it did two things. That was later on. That first one, I'm getting way lost now.
No, but the first one,
Yeah. So it was great. I really enjoyed it, but it also made me realise that the music industry is a strange beast that I didn't know quite how I was going to fit into.
Well, because I think not only did you have that big tour, then you got taken Triple J, Unearthed, it went on, and you were a solo artist, and it came all very quick to you.
Yeah.
So it was, I guess what you're talking about is the ego, like how to manage that, because you were a solo artist, so you're managing all this attention on your own, literally diving out of Tafe, coming out of, I think what I understood was you're quite solitude in the way you crafted your music. You weren't collaborating, you were, almost shy to show it to your own father, and here you were thrown in front of these big crowds touring. And so share what happened after that, because you was that when you had to sort of take a break? And
yeah, I remember it was a moment. I had a tour with Bonja, which was in this other, if you know that, it's like cool sort of reggae rock Australian band they're actually from New Zealand, but they're in Melbourne. And I was in Western Australia, and I played my songs with just me and my guitar.
Yeah.
And it was an okay gig. And then they got on stage, and he got on, and he was this drum, And then the lead singer came there and he was just grooving, and I was like, oh man, I want to do that. And it was a really good tour in the sense that there was a big crowds, but I was in pain for every song playing. I just couldn't stand to be there. And so that shifted something in me that I need to do something. I need to figure out a different way to do this, because
to sustain it,
the isolation aspect of it was, and I'm still wrestling with that to this day.
Yes.
I love the creative process on my own, but it also can be very lonely.
What is the
place.
touring? It's a very, you're on tour, you're on the road, and then you come back to a hotel room, and often the artists are on their own.
Yeah.
And it's quite, you're in this buzz, and then you come back, and it is
quite confronting. Yeah.
It's sort of yin and yang, very opposite polar ends of the scale.
Yeah, and I didn't have I couldn't quite cope.
Yes, so it takes something to cope with that, doesn't it?
And so that led me to study. I went to uni.
So then you went and studied, because let's just pause. There was a moment when your mum, because I love this story, your mum gave you a present for Christmas?
That's later.
Later,
That's
okay.
later.
So first you went and studied now Bachelor of Arts.
I went to do English teaching.
Okay.
Went into a class and did my prac and just went, yeah, not for me.
Yeah.
But then continued on to do, I really enjoyed the English, so I got my Bachelor of Arts in English. And then...
Because Daniel's also an amazing writer.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
I don't know, because I researched.
Okay, good.
But you are an amazing writer, and you have your blog as well. So you went into writing, and then...
Yeah, and then it's just the same. It's like so many things. And then Then I went actually to try and do primary teaching again, and just went, nah, teaching's not for me. And then then that happened where my mum, she had a cafe, and she would get quite eccentric characters, and she said, oh, there's this guy I think you'd really like. He's a painting teacher, and he's just got a different sort of style. And so I said, well, buy me a lesson for Christmas. So she bought me a lesson for Christmas, and I spent a day with him, and it just cracked something open in me, the painting. He got me to do stuff like blind contour drawing, which I'm not sure if you know, but yeah. So I wouldn't look at what I'm drawing, I'd just look at you. And then he'd say, do you like music? I was like, yeah. Do you like to dance? I was like, yeah. So all right, close your eyes, pick up some pastels, and he'd play the Doors, and then he'd play some classical piece, and you sort of, so it was more about getting into you, like forget what this thing looks like. So that really cracked art making open for me in a way that it had never been, which, long story short, ended up me studying art therapy. So I did my master's in art therapy.
And got a distinction? Did you?
Yeah. Yep. And then COVID happened, and then that
stopped that experience.
Yeah.
And were you playing music through this and writing?
I was just starting to get really, I was experimenting with this idea of a three-piece where it was me, a drummer and a bass player. And if we could get through a set like that, and then if I had a friend or anyone, I would invite them on stage. So there was, because I love that with music, I love the spontaneity. I don't really like the rigid set thing. I just get bored. I love a bit of chaos. So that was working really well, and then COVID hit, and and now I'm only just starting to re-emerge now after COVID. COVID really gave me a good old whack.
A lot of creatives struggled with that.
Everyone's got a COVID story. It really disrupted a lot of things.
But I think touching on the music industry, it really affected because a lot of the touring stopped, and a lot of venues were paused. So I think musicians especially really used to being around the crowds, and it.
Well, it made it normal to perform in front of a camera in a room by yourself.
Yes. Live streams.
Can't quite do. I do, but I don't like doing it.
Well, talking about that, how do you find music has supported your process of emotions? Rugby's a great way to help it physically, but how has music been for you in that, relief of the mental
It's hard
struggles?
to know whether it creates it or, I mean, I definitely was drawn to music because it seemed to answer some emotional, not that I would have known that when I started making music, but certainly it's, for me anyway, I think there's a million ways you can make music, but my relationship to music has been particularly songwriting and production, and I just find it's like balm. That's where I tend to move towards with music. So has it helped me with my emotional life? I don't know if I could answer that, but
Yeah, because you're still in the process.
I'm still taking my medicine.
Still in the
so,
process, yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about going to Ngaanyatjarra. Did I say it correct?
You're close, pretty good.
Okay.
Ngaanyatjarra lands.
Ngaanyatjarra.
Yeah.
What led you to this experience? So that's near South.
It's like it's 8 hours west of Alice Springs.
Okay.
It's right on the tri-state border of Northern Territory, South Australia and Western Australia. It's actually in Western Australia, but yeah, it's right there.
Because you took on a role in music production, which feels like you were bringing your skills that you learnt through Tafe, New South Wales. So what ignited that experience for you? Was it an ad or what was?
Desperation.
Okay.
No one would hire me.
Yeah.
I was trying to look for jobs in the more corporate world, and thankfully they didn't
This
hire me.
opportunity came up.
Yeah, and I was talking to a friend who was working up in Broome area with an Aboriginal community, and I said, "How'd you find that job?" And she said she searched art in ethicaljobs.com.au. So I got off the phone and did that, and this job appeared, and I applied, and then 3 weeks later I was flying out to the desert. So
tell us some of the amazing, one of the highlight experiences, maybe one of the challenging experiences.
Oh, God. They're probably one and the same. It's really curious that I haven't talked about this much, I haven't written about it because it was sort of, I wanted to just go on a journey with myself, but I actually found out yesterday that the main guy, I want to talk about a guy, Delwyn, who we talked about.
Yes.
He actually is in prison, just got put in prison. I don't know what for, but it really
So let's just pause. Delwyn is one of the artists,
so
just to
Delwyn
give context to everyone.
was one of the first, so I arrived in that whole, I was there, I had a bit of a rogue boss who didn't really know what I was doing out there, but she saw there was lots of music talent and wanted someone that could help harness that sort of musical. So there's a big studio out in the middle of the desert, and there's a desert reggae scene in Australia, if you haven't known about it, which I had no idea, but there's this thriving desert reggae scene. So Delwyn was the guy in my community who I really bonded with. He was also the captain of the footy team, so I played footy with him too. Yeah. So my footy skills came into handy a lot.
Yeah, I love that.
And we ended up recording about 10 original songs of his together, which has reminded me to put in the process. And it was just, I don't know, I haven't really been able to find words to express
that experience,
what that relationship was, but I really felt, I suppose I felt like if I was born out there, this would be who I would be. It's sort of how I felt. So I really felt a strong, and the language is really, like he speaks in, so it's in the Ngaanyatjarra lands, but Pitjantjatjara is the language that they speak out there. So the English is pretty ordinary. So you can't communicate effectively in English.
So you're connecting through the creativity.
So you've got music, you've got sport, you've just got the way you look at each other kind of thing. So I still don't know.
So that was in
2022. I was out there for 6 months in 2022.
But then you've gone back again and done some more with them.
Yeah, then 2023 I went for a few, because it was so intense out there, like very isolated. There's
it's hard times.
Yeah, it's not a place you necessarily want to be. Yeah. But there's such beautiful, I was so welcome, and there was such beautiful, warm people, and I really saw a side of Australia that I had no idea existed, and really felt like, I think what made it, I had this one experience which I'll share. I'd gone home after 4 weeks to fly back because I couldn't take, I could feel I was going crazy, and I just thought, I don't know if I can do this. And I went home and I left my guitar this guitar, out there,
Oh.
just so I knew that if I was gonna, I'd have to at least go and pick it back up. So I think I knew that I was going to go back out, but I just needed a break, and went home, stayed at my uncle's house, and then flew back out. But I just flew with a very. This might be a long story. So
No, we like
it's
long
all right?
stories. We're okay with long stories.
And I flew back out, and to get to the community is like this 4-hour drive through this red dusty shrub. It was my favourite drive, and halfway along the drive, I just I parked my troopy. They left me a troopy at the airport, and I hopped in and drove, and then I went for this little climb up a rock and just sat there, knowing what I was heading into a bit clearer, and having no idea what to do. So I just found myself sitting on the rock and going, "Hey, guys, I'm Dan. I'm coming in. I don't have to if you don't want me to, but I just felt like I needed to sit."
Permission to country.
Yeah, I just
Yep.
felt like I needed to just say hello.
Yep.
And the way my imagination works is I felt like, no, you're good, you're welcome. And I suppose I'd met people and I knew that they wanted me back, so it wasn't completely imaginative. And I said, what am I here for? And I felt like I heard that was to heal, and I didn't really know what that meant, but that's sort of what I felt like I heard. So I got back into my troopy and drove, and then I just said to myself, I'm just going to wake up, I'll just show up and just let whatever. My boss had gone home, so it was just me in this community sort of. So I just wake up and said, what's
What can I
today?
do? How can I be of service?
Not even that.
Yeah.
But just like just let the day come to me, sort of thing. Just show up and see what would come. And a few things happened. One, I won't tell that, but this guy said, they're doing this ceremony out on there's a big footy over there, and it's just a big dust bowl. There's like rocks this big, and it's, and the women of the land were doing what's called women's business about 10 k's away, and they were all coming. They come back to Rubs, do a ceremony with all the men to protect the men and to protect themselves from the women's business that they've been just doing. So I got invited to go along to this thing.
Wow.
So I was out on this big dusty oval. It's winter, so it's quite cold, even though the sun. And there was me and then 2 other white fellas. And other than that, it was about 100 young men, or 100 men. And then behind us were the kids and the women who weren't the elders. And I was sitting there, and this little kid goes, "Excuse me, mister, you gotta take your shirt off." And I couldn't tell if they were playing with my head or not, but I was like, "Oh, I'm in your hands." So then I noticed all the other guys had their shirt off. And then I was looking around, and "Excuse me, you got to look down at the ground." So I wasn't allowed to look up. I just had to look down ahead of me. So I was just sitting there. And then in the sort of corner of my eyes, this big trail of troopies, about like 50 or 100 troopies came in, and there was about 100 to 200 elderly women popping out of these troopies. So like, what a scene. So I just caught a glimpse of that and then kept my head down. And then they were singing and talking and and it was like this swarm of bees or something. It's like this big coming towards me.
Harmony of sound.
It was, harmony, but just like a cacophony more than a harmony. It was just this. And it was coming towards me, and this was a really key moment for me out there where I was like, man, this is so strange. This is very strange. And then I just had the flip of thinking, no, this is not strange. I'm strange. These sounds have been here for God knows how long. And so I just became really aware of how alien I was. And then I felt this pair of hands on my shoulders massaging some kind of duck fat, or I can't remember what it was, and then about 5 pairs of hands all rubbing my shoulders and my back. I was bawling my eyes out. I sort of felt like the guys that I'd talked to on the rocks were just like, this guy's all right. Just he needs a bit of love, sort of thing. Like he's good.
Yeah.
So that, and then we had a few ceremonies, but it was a bit lackluster, and they were all arguing each other, and this dog fight happened in the middle, like this tornado dog fight happened, and it was it was sheer madness. And then as we were leaving, I was like, wow, that was pretty profound. And then I found out that a lot of their arguing, a lot of them were just saying, hurry up, it's cold, we want to go home.
That's what they were saying.
Yeah. So for them, it was just like a family, like a bickering family. It was just nothing. I don't know why I tell that story, but that's what came to mind.
I love that story, yeah.
And that was
Because I think you really gave us a visual experience of what it was like out there.
Yeah.
I felt like I was there in that moment.
Oh, good.
And Del, that you were working with, so you're saying now he's
in jail. I just found out yesterday, and it really rocked me.
That rocked you a little
bit. I don't know what it was for, but he's a wild man. Like he's just they're desert people. Like I really think of them as desert people. 'Cause I don't know. It's in the desert, so they're resilient, hardy.
And is the music that you worked with all these, as you said, you were out there mentoring them. Do you feel that music is a great outlet for them?
It's like a lifeline.
Yeah, great. Yeah. That's what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, it's really the meeting, because they're really, from my perspective, you couldn't get two more alien cultures.
Yes.
And the places that they meet seem to be, and which I felt very lucky to, was sport and music. That's sort of a nice sort of crossover. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel it's great medicine, music and sport. Let's come back now, because after that you came back to Sydney. Mm-hmm. You're actually from the Central Coast, but you came back to Sydney.
I was actually born in Manly, but grew up in the Central Coast.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Yeah, born in Manly, grew up in the
Central Coast.
Central
Actually, I was born right next to the Tafe. I was born. What's the hospital next to the Tafe? North Sydney.
Oh, in North Sydney.
In St Leonard's.
Okay.
Royal North Shore Hospital.
Royal North Shore.
I was born there.
Everyone's speaking up so well today. So you came back to Sydney and you've started a podcast with good mate Jordan.
Yeah.
So you're back to collaboration. Snowy Gum.
Snowy Gum presents.
Let's give that a little bit of a
chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, how did that come out? It was just an idea. He just said, everyone, I feel like every time you have a good chat with a friend, you're like, oh, we should be a podcast.
Everyone wants to do a podcast and study at Screen and Media, Tafe Nsw Wales.
And that's why I love my relationship with Jordan. It's been a newer relationship.
So Jordan's another artist, Georgia
Fair. And we actually toured a bit as well, and then
with Old Man River.
Our own little tours back when I was mid-20s, and then we went on our different journeys. And then when I moved back to Sydney about 5 years ago, we reconnected.
Collaborate, yeah.
And we've had a really great friendship. And the reason I love Jordan is that he's a doer. He doesn't just talk about doing stuff. He actually, and he's not the best guitarist. He's not but he releases stuff into the world. And so we've found a nice little thing where we just talk about our experiences, creative process, song. It seems to centre mostly around song, whatever this song thing is. It's a bit meandering for some, but we're having a good time doing it. So.
No, it's a great podcast.
Oh, you've had a listen?
I have listened to a lot of episodes.
Nice.
Well, actually, through listening to it, I discovered a song that you've been dabbling with in this new process of falling back in love with music.
Yeah, so
and I'm hoping, tell me.
Well, that's part of what we're experimenting with, is inviting people into the songs when they're in their really raw, incomplete stages. So,
In the process of your chat.
In the process of it,
Do you want to share one of those songs with us?
Yeah,
because there was one,
the
one that I heard on the podcast.
Yeah.
I've not heard it live yet, but
yeah. I can play that one for you. This is very recent and raw.
We'll all support you, right?
In fact, no one's actually heard the whole.
No one's heard the whole song.
So there you go.
So this is the first. Grab your phones. No. I'm going to have a sip of water while we do it.
Yeah. Do you want me to just play it?
Yeah. Love you to.
Yep.
Do you want me to do your chorus? No, I'm just joking.
No. This sort of emerged. I was down in Bright visiting my brother and...
Oh, down Melbourne. Bright,
yeah,
beautiful,
bright, yeah,
yeah.
like the snows.
I love it.
I was not in a good way, and but they were really there for me. So this just sort of emerged as we were sitting by the river.
A river running by beneath the blue sky. The kids play on the rocks as I take off my socks. There's no need to worry now. Take a look to see all the love and goodness around. And I know it's been rough, and you're trying to be tough, but you can take down your walls, let the tears fall all the way down the river now. You don't have to do a thing, but let yourself be found. It's alright. Lean yourself just a little more into the light. And I know it might seem impossible, but recognize it's a lie. It's not true. There's more love for you than you know what to do with. Down, 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 down. Down, 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 you're terrified, and you think that you're done. Go take a run all the way up the mountainside. You don't have to hide. Together we can hold you tight. It's alright. Lean yourself just a little more into the light. And I know it might seem impossible, but recognize it's a lie. It's not true. There's more love for you than you know what to do with. Ah, yeah, it's alright. Lean yourself just a little more into the light. And I know it might seem impossible, but recognize it's a lie. It's not true. There's more love for you than you know what to do with.
How does that feel?
Yeah, it's nice to sing. I think I like singing more than talking sometimes.
You feel more relaxed?
Well, it settles my... I was talking to someone with Morgan about getting into the body, and I think that's what music often does.
And dance.
For me, dance, but dance and music, I don't know where one begins and the other ends. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so it feels nice to sing. So thank you for listening.
Tell us, so what would you say to artists that are wanting to delve into the industry?
Don't do it. No. Oh,
Because your
gosh.
music production has come in and out of so many, I mean, I'll let you answer the question, but you know, that one course you did, I feel like now going through a little part of your journey, it has come back and supported, even with Jordan, you've done some production.
Oh yeah, it served me it served me, probably, it's one of the better courses I've done. All the other like fancy courses, but actually practical skills.
Practical skills, isn't it? Yeah.
Even like when I did an interview with you a year ago, I was helping you set up your
Yes.
podcast. It's like,
So when I
that's great.
started my podcast, I had just moved from the Central Coast and I had a space with some audio equipment, and I think someone suggested that I interviewed Dan, and we caught up and I said, well, actually, I don't know how to plug in all the system. And so that's how we started off, wasn't it?
So anyway, yeah, so I don't
But
know.
this is a very different journey we're having today, because I'm learning a lot of new things about you today, because you hadn't been out there to Ngaanyatjarra. You say the word.
Yeah, and that's still Ngaanyatjarra, yeah.
Ngaanyatjarra.
Ngaanyatjarra.
So, did you bring in something you love to
did.
show me? And I'm hoping it leads into another part of... I don't know what you have. You're surprising me. I don't know. A paintbrush.
This, I've actually just, I haven't painted for a while, and I've just started painting in the last couple of days. And I found this brush, and I went, this brush.
Tell us about this brush.
This is just a really ordinary brush.
Okay.
But I've worked it, it's like, it's almost not a brush anymore, it's almost just a stick. Like this would have started like a normal brush. And it's a worker, it works. Like I use it a lot. So that's why I
love
like
that you've
it.
brought in this. So what I wanted to end with you is, Daniel, you also have your art side. So you can head over to Daniel Forsyth is it .com?
.world, I think.
.world.
Yeah.
And we'll
couldn't
share
get
it. But you also do art, and a lot of through your music, you incorporated your art in all incredible, even with Lost in the Moment back at that very beginning, wasn't it, the artwork?
That wasn't, I directed that, I didn't actually do that. That was before I knew that I could paint.
Okay.
Painting's been a more recent thing, but yeah, I love
But a lot of the
part
new
it.
releases, the EPs you've done, have been all your own artwork,
Yeah.
even self-portraits.
Yeah.
So I really encourage you to have a look at Daniel's art, and I'm very excited that you're back to sharing music, and I'm hoping you emerge again and start to get out there and tour again,
Yeah,
because we would
appreciate
love
that,
to
Steph.
hear your music.
Thanks for being a supporter, it means a lot.
Always. Thank you so much for joining me, Daniel Forsyth, also known as Daniel Lee Kendall.
Yeah, he's dead,
But he's
unfortunately.
dead. That's a whole nother album you
Yeah.
can go check out. Thank you for being on For the Love of It, Tafe New South Wales Sessions.
My pleasure.
I'm Steph Pappas.